Hey everyone, welcome back to On the Fence Movie Reviews. I am Adrian, joined by my co-host Rob, and today we're going to be talking about Spiral. So Spiral stars Chris Rock and also features Sam Jackson playing Chris Rock's dad. Chris Rock plays Detective Zeke, and he's called onto a case once there's a string of copycat murders, copycatting Jigsaw, the murderer. Unfortunately, I did not see this movie. Rob did, and so Rob's going to go ahead and give us his review of Spiral.
Well, first, let's point out the elephant in the room that I just found out a second ago is that
Oh,
you have not seen any of the Saw movies whatsoever.
okay, so I am not a huge horror film fan, and I get scared,
Makes a
so
lot of
I,
sense.
I just stay away. So
Understandable. So, anyways,
yeah,
I went to go see this movie, and okay. So let me. Adrian's right. What kind of happens is Chris Rock's character is a detective. He gets called on a case. He has a new partner because you kind of sense some issues with Chris's character Zeke in the department. His superiors give him a new partner to kind of like, hey, you need to calm down. Kind of show this guy the ropes, and they get called out to a case, and it ends up being they don't know at first. They kind of they're investigating, and then they see the familiar tape that says "Play Me," and then the ball starts to kind of roll from here. I don't want to get I don't want to give too much away. I don't want to spoil anything because this movie heavily relies on certain details and eventually spoilers at the end. But I'm not going to give anything away. So I will say that um there are some good things and some bad things about this movie. Adrian, feel free to chime in anytime you want if you have any
yeah, for
questions, whatever
sure.
the case may be. So the way we get familiar shots, the one thing I do like about the Saw franchise is we get from that kind of high when something happens or like you see someone gets killed, you that fast paced kind of camera towards the victim, and the loud, kind of the music. And I feel like they brought that back to this movie. I feel like it was missing a little bit from the last movie, Jigsaw, but this
Okay.
Spiral, they kind of brought it back. I did like that. It kind of gives you the the member berries where you're like, oh, I remember that from the first Jigsaw. You just the sounds and the
Okay, so do
tones.
they kind of okay? So the question I have is, do they kind of bring it back to the feeling of the original one? Because I remember when the original one came out, and it had like a different kind of feeling. Like it was very low budget, very like small settings and whatnot, very dark. Seemed like, but as it kind of went along, it just seemed got like crazier and more outlandish with the traps and stuff like that. But this one seems like it's trying to be more of like a gritty cop crime thriller
So
with
so
Saw as like or Jigsaw as the like the whatever the murderer, I guess.
so here's the thing. I for me personally, I feel like yeah, they with as far as like the scenes, the settings, and I don't know about, I wouldn't say the kills so much, but everything else I feel like yeah, they kind of toned it back a little. It's very grounded. Um but at the same time, one of the negative things I did have about it is I felt like it was trying really, really hard to follow kind of the first couple Saws, because you talk to anyone who
Okay.
enjoys that the Saw universe or who's a fan of Saw in general, um, they'll tell you the first two are probably really good. Some people will, and I'm one of them, who will even say I think the second one's better than the first one.
Okay.
Um, but I definitely got the feeling that they were trying to go back and trying to capture that feeling of the first Saw movie. So, A for effort as far as trying to do that. For me personally, I don't. It felt like they were trying, and for me, I don't like when a movie is trying, and I definitely don't like when I feel like they're trying. So that I will say is a negative.
You feel like they were like kind of like trying too hard to be like the originals rather than being original itself.
Yes, and
Okay.
so like just pretty much exactly what you said. So that kind of very it stood out a lot. And another
Yeah.
thing I will say is a good and bad different scenes. I feel like Chris Rock did a, a really good job. I always see him as a comedian, and he, for rightfully so, he's been a comedian, ever since I've known him. Well, I mean, I don't know him personally, but
Yeah, no,
you know what I
what's
mean.
funny is like what you're saying there is that and I agree. It was like I'm used to seeing him as a comedian, so I thought that was kind of an interesting casting choice. But I guess from what I heard is that he's like a huge
Oh
Saw
yeah,
fan, and
yeah,
like
yeah, he
he
is.
kind
Yeah,
of
he
came up
is.
with this idea for this
Yeah,
one.
yeah. So I mean, I'm not gonna knock him too much for that, but like I said, I've seen him as a comedy guy, and to when I seen he was gonna be in this movie, I was just like, okay, we'll see how it goes. Certain scenes, certain parts of this movie, I feel like he hits the dramatic role really well. Honestly, and let me just go back to the beginning of this movie. There is like an opening, like the very opening, like want to say 3 to 5 minutes. They're having a discussion about Forrest Gump. One of the most epic conversations you will ever hear. It is amazing conversation that they have. And I'm not going to spoil that because that's something you should just experience if you decide to see this movie. But so and
I just
Chris,
want to watch the movie for that
yeah,
conversation now. I mean,
Chris Rock does an amazing job, and so in
yeah,
this specific scene, so but throughout the movie, there's dramatic kind of moments, there's suspenseful kind of moments, and I feel it's very weird because I feel like he hits them at some points, and you
okay,
you think like, man, like he's doing a really good job, but then at other points, it's almost comical, like he's trying to be dramatic or trying to be like
okay.
intense, and it comes off as like funny so much so that the audience that I was in audibly laughed at certain, everyone pretty much
Okay,
laughed
so
at
it kind
certain
of comes
scenes.
off as almost like cheesy type of
Yeah,
acting. Like
yes,
it's
yes.
not, yeah, it's too serious almost.
But it's not through the whole movie. Like I said, it's hit and miss. Some scenes you're like, wow, he does a really good job here. He's doing an amazing job. And other scenes you're just like, okay, he's like staring really, really too hard. And well, like what's going on? And with the music and the sounds and everything, it just was a little over the top. Um, let me get to what everyone loves about these Saw movies is the kills, the torture scenes. Um, you know what? I think they did a good job. There's nothing that I would say stands out. Like in previous Saw movies, there are things that you just like. You say in the first movie, like the restroom with the saw. The second movie, the needle pit. The I think in the third movie, the twisting machine. There's just these epic machines and traps that all these Saw franchise throughout the Saw franchise that you have. And to me, I don't feel like there's one of those scenes or traps in this movie that kind of stands out. I think they're all okay. Maybe a couple of them are good, but it's nothing that I would be like, oh man, this there's nothing that's gonna keep me thinking about this movie that's gonna make this movie stand out as far as the kills or the traps. It is to me it was just like, okay, that was cool, or I've seen it before, but it was did a little spin on it. It was okay. um Another thing I'm going to say that I just didn't like, and that could just be me, is maybe the pacing of this movie. I honestly felt like there wasn't story. It was just scene to scene to scene to scene. It was almost like, okay, this is scene one, this is scene two, this is scene three, this is like we were not given like a story to kind of flow into. It was just like, okay, honestly, it almost felt just like I was watching storyboard, and they were like, all right, we're gonna act out this scene, ready, go. And you know, it, it, I didn't like it. That was one thing that just kind of stood out to me right off the bat. I was just like, I don't like the way this movie was shot. Throughout the movie, there's not, nowhere did I feel except the beginning part of this movie. I'm telling you, the first part of this movie is amazing. But after that, it just feels like I'm just going from, okay, let's set up this shot, go. Let's set up this shot, go. It doesn't feel like a cohesive, flowing movie that just kind of intertwines together.
Okay,
It feels like just like storyboard here, here, here. So
yeah,
that's kind of just something that I just wasn't feeling. Um, throughout the movie. And I am a huge Saw fan, so I wanted this to be. I mean, I didn't expect it to be one or two, but I wanted it to be something where I'd be like, yeah, this movie was cool. At least, even if the story wasn't the best, I was like, oh, it's these cool kill scenes or whatever the case may be. But, it just, as far as, like I said, as far as the flowing of the movie, it didn't land for me.
Hmm. Okay. So with all that being said, and I kind of have an idea where you're going to go with this, but are you going to say get off the fence, or what are you going to recommend?
So here's the thing. There's always a thing. Um, for someone like you, Adrian, who's never seen a Saw movie whatsoever, I'm gonna say just stay on the fence with this movie, because there's nothing about this movie that I would say would stand out to make you want to watch it. For anyone who's not a Saw fan or just not a horror fan in general, but now I'm speaking to my horror fans, my Saw fans. Um, if you like the Saw movies, I feel like you don't need to watch this movie. But for me personally, I'm gonna say you should probably get off the fence and watch it. Again, this is for people who are into the horror and more specifically people into the Saw franchise. I would say get off the fence and watch this movie, and not because it's anything that's like this, mind blowing movie or it's just it completes the story so well. Um, I think it just kind of adds to the lore of the Saw franchise, and
Okay.
I feel like if you've invested your time into the previous Saw movies, which I think there's like 6 or 7 of them. There might be even more. I don't know. There's so many. I feel like you should maybe get off the fence and check this movie out
Okay.
just for the fact of that it's
If you've
kind
stuck
of,
with the
yeah, if you
franchise
stuck,
long
yes,
enough, you
if
might
you
as well go
stuck,
in for the
yes,
next one.
yes, if you stuck with the franchise
Okay.
this long, then
Cool.
it's one
Yeah.
more movie.
Why not? I get what you're saying. Someone like me who's not a horror fan, there comes along a film that is in the horror genre that will capture my attention.
Right.
That'll get me interested and actually kind of is more accessible to non horror fans and are a little bit deeper in some ways, like
Yeah.
a film like Get Out, right,
Right.
or even
Yes.
Signs from way back when, where you get these like sort of genre type films. But I get from listening to what you're saying is like if you've never really invested in any time into horror films or in this series more particularly, it might not be worth getting off the fence.
Right, right, yeah, that definitely. If you've invested your time, then just it's one.
Why
Honestly,
not?
yeah, and honestly, I will say this: it's not a long movie, and it does. I feel like it moves pretty quickly, so I didn't feel like I was there for like 2 hours. I think it's a,
Okay.
I think it's around like an hour and a half or hour 45, something like that. But it's not a long movie.
Okay.
It doesn't feel long, so like I said, it moves really quickly. So I don't think if you got a free day, go check it out.
Yeah, maybe a matinee where it's like half price.
There you go. There you go.
Even better. All right, guys. Well, thanks for watching Rob's review of Spiral. Um, do you agree with them? Do you disagree with them? Do you think this is like one of the best Saw movies ever? Why don't you comment down below and let us know what you think, and we'll get that conversation rolling. Also, don't forget to click like, subscribe, and share with all of your friends. And follow us on Instagram at On the Fence Movie Reviews.
Also, one last thing before we do the sign off. If you have a favorite Saw movie, put it down below. What do you rank the Saw movies in the comment section? What do you think? And in saying all that, remember, we'll catch you on the fence.